Alright. Welcome back to OBBG. I think it's been a couple weeks. I don't remember what episode it is. I need to find out what episode it is so I can flag it in the chat. So hang on. While I do that. Oops. Dang it. Okay. Episode 30. So, there's a couple things I could work on at this point. Let's see if we can give a little context here. When we last left things, we were working on the sort of Factorio thing. I haven't updated this in a while because what did we work on? We did articulated arm pickers, and at some point we did the non-articulated arm pickers, but I don't know if that was actually 28. I'll have to check. At some point we implemented saving. Primitive place and destroy blocks. I may not have written that down when I implement save. So I have a bad save load that I think I need to fix. And then the obvious thing is that I got a little distracted with these picker animation things, the graphics rendering stuff, when I maybe should be doing gameplay. But I don't actually think that was a bad choice. It's a pattern that you can see amongst certain kind of programmers. It is often a bad choice. But it was kind of revealing to me to get the arms working because my assumption had been that I would make this game... hang on, I got to reload chat, so I may miss something if you happen to type it, say it right now. I was originally figuring that they would be the conveyor belts moving stuff and the pickers moving stuff, and that would be all the animation, and everything else would be blocks so that it could use the voxel engine, basically. But since I did the work to get the instanced animation stuff so that stuff is reasonably efficient in terms of memory usage and performance, maybe it wouldn't be so bad. But the important thing is that once I had those arms moving, it was very clear that like a lot of the visual appeal comes from seeing all this motion, synchronous or unsynchronized. Like if you think about like videos of, I don't know, I've seen like candy bars being manufactured, but printing presses or things like that, everything's in motion, and that's all sort of interesting. And I think like Factorio does have some things move, but mostly just like the pickers and I guess like drills. And a lot of stuff is just the still thing. Maybe there's an animation, maybe there's the smoke coming out of it or whatever, but it's static. And I assume that's true of a lot of the Minecraft mods, the whatever the technical things that do a lot more crafting. They tend to automated crafting, that they tend to not have really animated components. I've seen animations, but I don't think they're like primarily animated. So I think one of the things I want to do is figure out how to make all of the machines animated stuff. And that's going to have some kind of significant issues because just, the current size of the machine as a single block is a little small to do much. So I think they need to be bigger. So I have to figure out, do they need to be multiple blocks? Do I want to change my scale so the blocks are much, much bigger so that each machine has more room to work with? I don't know. So that's stuff I have to figure out. On the other hand, I can just start doing the gameplay aspect of the crafting of combining stuff, makes other stuff. I can definitely get started on that. That won't be work that gets thrown out or anything. So Um, so, however, let me see if I can find this email. I got mail from somebody. So much mail. I don't remember what the subject line was, and I have no idea who it was from. Let me search for OBBG. Ah, here it is. So someone named Richard 2 said he was watching, and he noticed something funny back in episode 4. So we're going to start with that. Got to fix this bug. And you guys can comment if you think he's wrong, but my first glance at it, I sure seemed like he was right. So you may remember back in the day that I made this was this complicated system that I spent a long time trying to understand and build, and it all feels kind of hacky, and I'm not super thrilled with it. That is basically a sort of specialized job system for building the meshes. And it's because there's this weird complex dependency between the chunks and the meshes. Because the meshes need border chunks, border voxels blocks, so that they can correctly compute the polygons that they have relative to their neighbors. And so it's this big mess. And I talked about then, I think, so if you were there for it, or if you've followed me on Twitter and read everything I write or whatever, you probably know that I don't like multi-threaded programming. And I think it's dangerous and unfortunate, and it requires thinking about processes in a very different way, and I prefer to avoid it. But for the mesh building and the world terrain generation, I really wanted that to be fast, very fast, right? I don't want the Minecraft pop-in. I want it to just be able to generate as fast as you move around, where we have to limit how fast you move around to the terrain generation speed in some sense. And so I did make this whole multi-thread system. And one of the things I tried to do, I didn't really necessarily even explain it, I don't remember, is that the renderer says, here are the meshes I need, and it builds this big list. And then there's a separate thread that processes that list and starts building that data. And the idea is this function is called by the renderer thread. And it doesn't want to get blocked. If the other thing is processing it, it doesn't want to do it. So we use this SDL try-lock mutex where it's allowed to fail. It can try to take the mutex, and if somebody else already has the mutex, then it fails, and we don't bother swapping. And what will happen if that happens is that the renderer thread doesn't end up submitting its requests this frame. And next frame it'll try again with its new list, because every frame it's computing what the new list is and requesting it, even though they're mostly the same. But if that happens, then we increment the starvation count, and if the starvation count gets to 3, so if we go 3 frames or 2 frames without being able to lock the mutex, we just force it, we go ahead and block the renderer thread. So the idea here is that we've got to eventually do it. So at a certain point, we give up. Now, the thread that processes these should never do that much with them. It locks the requested mutex and processes them all, but it doesn't do any work here. It just launches jobs. It's not a worker thread. So, but it does, I think malloc, yeah, it does do some stuff. So it may not be the best. And I believe there are 2 lists, and it's swapping the 2 lists so that, right, yeah, it's called swap, so that it's never processing the list that's being built. So there's two independent lists. So the thing is what would happen if this code ran without the mutex? Well, it does swap the meshes. So this is maybe the only part that actually needed to be protected. I'm not sure. Like this is a bug that I'm not going to spend much time. I'm not going to spend any time trying to figure out like why it was working, even though it has a bug. Like that's usually I would try to figure it out, but because it's multi-threading, I don't really necessarily care. I'm just going to say, hey, for some reason that survived. So here's the bug. It's up in this code. It's very simple. We try to lock the mutex, and it may fail. And so we want to know whether it failed or not, so we set locked to whether it failed or not. But SDL mutex timeout is going to be the return value when it times out, meaning it doesn't lock it. So it seems like, just looking at the code without checking the reference manual, it should be this, that this value is exactly backwards. Probably what would happen is it would, most of the time, so, and this is the part where I don't understand, it never tries to unlock it if locked is set to false. So who knows what's going on there. So let's look that up and make sure that is the meaning of it. Actually, let's just look up try lock mutex. Now maybe it'll turn out this isn't a bug. Maybe like this has a totally nonsensical backwards return value. But I'm pretty sure, yeah. Try lock mutex. Status 0, locked mutex. Yeah, I remember noticing this, or -1 on error, which is like, great, what does the -1 mean? So, locked mutex itself can fail, and we don't even check the return value for that. So, I guess we just make it SDL mutex timed out. I almost made it not equal to 0 instead of equal to 0. That would have been awesome. So yeah, I think it would go into the always starving path, but then I'm not clear, like it never unlocks the mutex, so I don't know what would happen. It should be locking the mutex, not unlocking it, then locking again, not unlocking it, then goes into the starvation count, locks it, and unlocks it. Does that, but that's like unbalanced. Like, I guess it's not a semaphore, it's a mutex, so maybe the unlocks all three, like, yeah, whatever. Let's make sure that that doesn't break it. Don't worry about that flicker. That's actually debug stuff from the logistics system. So that's correct. Oh, I need to bump the view radius out. Oh, this will be slow though because we're in debug. So anyway, yeah, so don't even bother sending me proposals for why that was happening, because I don't, why it was working, because I just don't want to know. Whatever. It's something. Okay, so maybe it'll be more responsive now when we build stuff. I don't know. Like maybe that was causing a couple frames of lag, but who knows? So, all right. So it seems fine. Force some loading in the other direction. So anyway, thank you, Richard Q, for however your name is pronounced, for reporting that bug. That all bugs are shallow if enough eyes see them, and it took a lot of eyes. GC, I think that's the out of memory case. This has been a long time. I think that's just the out of memory case. Yep, it's null. Right there. So that's fragmenting or something I have to deal with. That's on my to-do list, I'm sure. Yeah. So maybe that fixes a bug. Oh, I haven't added a bunch of stuff. Oh, that was just that thing I just did. Oh, that was all those things. Okay. What are the unadded files? That's a PSD. So I think that was a source file I used when making the rotations. So I'm not sure I need to save it. How big is it? It's small enough. And I definitely need those shaders. And I don't need the save game file. Okay, so I think that's all I need to add. Wait, is it dash A or dash capital A? I guess it's dash A. Okay. So that's that. What else have we got in this to do? Picker logic for machine sides. I think I did that. No, I didn't. Oh, I did. I believe I did. Returns at the animated blocks. I did, although I'd like to redo them. And I wanted to redo that. I did that in a really crazy way. Use bottom bits instead of top bits for animation. I put them in the top bits because that meant I could mask them kind of for free, and I realized I could do it in a different way that's with the same code. I can change the mask in a trivial way and store it in the bottom bits without losing the maybe it's a more complicated mask. Anyway, it would take a while to explain, and it's not what I'm working on, so let's not worry about it. So that's done. Right, and I labeled these with, of course, there's now factory idle. What is assemblers? Yeah, that's that. It doesn't have a liquid thing. It doesn't have a power thing. Yeah, It's just got conveyor belts. So let's just have that. We can split this out into a separate list at some point. Factory. Oh. Right, so there's all this conveyor belt stuff that I'll need in the long run. And yeah, so here's this thing about this was the design for the instance shader for how to do the skinned animation. And I think what I'm going to do, I need to actually like start figuring out what the machine animations look like, but I think I want to actually expand this. I did this really carefully packed thing that has 8 bone weights and 4, they're not really uniforms, they're 4 per instance float values that are the animation state that would normally be like matrices, the blend, the bone transformations, packed down to only 4 floats. And I think I maybe want to add, and it works because there's only 8 possible translations, because that works well for machines. Although it's a kind of a hacky thing for the rotations. They've sort of faked rotations for the articulated arm, and I can't rotate the normals. But what I think I want to do, while that part of it won't change, I think I do want to add a rotation, a very packed rotation format that only allows rotating along a fixed axis, probably. You can rotate the whole machine by 90 degrees to choose which axis that should be. And so, you could use it for, I probably wouldn't do this, but, the picker, since we have the picker, could have, it's the end on it could rotate like this, or something like that. So just have kind of hard-coded where in all the sets of joints the rotation happens, because remember, the whole reason that the translation scheme works is because the translations just add, so you can do them in any order. So as soon as you bring the rotation into it, the order now matters. So you'll have to translate some, rotate, and translate some. So they'll have to be specified where the rotation happens. And so it'll probably have to be 12 bone weights and 8 translation values. So it doesn't have to be a multiple of 4, but it lets you use the VEC4 formats and a sort of a minimum number of accesses. If you want 6 values, you'd have to code them as VEC2s and access and have 3 texel fetches or whatever. And who knows how that all shakes out. So minimum number of texel fetches and the minimum number of unique texture buffers. So, So yeah, I think I will start trying to do this, make some machines that take inputs and create different types of outputs. So we'll have to start coding things like different types of outputs. So first, let me check, how does this whole save game system work? Because I think it's a hack. And maybe I'm not going to fix that hack today, but I just want to refresh my memory of it. I think it's in Mesh Builder. The change box. Not change box, edit chunks. Oh no, it looks like I made a real system. It still has to keep it all loaded in memory at once. It doesn't have a Minecraft style disk swapping. It just loads it all. Um, but it looks like I actually did add the whole system for this, where it oh, right. It scans all of the chunks. It's pretty inefficient right now, but it is correct. Okay, so um, all right. So that anyway, that means I am free to edit to my heart's content and not worry about because the original system I put in could only do like 100 edits and then overwrote itself or something. So I'd forgotten that I'd actually gotten around to writing this whole thing. I was not updating that. Wasn't there an entry for that somewhere in here? Save changes to memory. Okay. Okay, I was saying I might want to split out this list of features and which games they are already found in. So let's go ahead and do that. And then I can remove them from this list without worrying about it. So let's move all this down to the to-do list. And some of them are going to be redundant. These got implemented. Implement that. That doesn't need to be kept around. Right, yeah, we expanded on that down here. Right, okay. So Fortress Craft Evolved. A voxel game with a survival mode combining tower defense, crafting, logistics, exploration, combat, and assembly lines. Okay. I can't see the background very well through the... Looks kind of Infinite Factory-esque. Oh, gallery. There we go. Kind of a... I guess that's a conveyor belt? I can't really tell. That's the same screenshot again. Yeah, not a fan of the art style, but I mean, my indie game with crappy programmer art, it looks worse, so I shouldn't really talk. Okay, here you go. That's pretty clearly. Is there like just a video? Okay, gallery is not what I want, clearly. Oh, because this is just the Steam screenshots. Videos. No, but these are other people's videos. Like, where's the, like... There we go. Yeah, I don't like that art at all. Okay, here we go. Oop. Looks like Minecraft carts. Yep, okay, here you have spinny machines. Or something. Massive caverns. I don't know about that. Whoa, what's that? Conveyor belt? Oh, that's more a better conveyor belt. There was a weird jerky movement thing. Yeah, tower of defense. Not enough view of the factory-ish part of it. I guess there's multiple videos. Here we go. Automate your resource production. Okay, that looked like cubes on... Oh, here we go. Yeah. Okay. Yep. This is exactly what I don't want my game to be like. This really one item moving jerkily, like density and a lot of motion is what I want in my thing. Whereas this is kind of, oh, here's, no, I guess there's a lot of pulsing beams, but, oh, now this is like a logistics view, which I do want to do something like that, but massive caverns. Yeah, that's, I mean, not to, I'm just saying it's not what I want my game to look like. I'm not saying it's whatever. But yeah, and there's some machines turning and stuff, so that stuff looks, yep, it's a very slow picker. But it's a much nicer looking picker than mine, clearly. You can't really see it very well. It's so dark. Anyway, but so that's a rotating picker that shows the value of. See, they do a real rotating thing there where they had multiple joints rotating, like the full-fledged, like the Witness machine expanding, which makes perfect sense and looks nice, but I don't think you can render a lot of them very efficiently. So, so I think doing the sort of more hacky thing that I'm doing is going to allow it to scale out a lot bigger. Also, I don't know how big their draw distance is. Anyway, yeah. So I'm not surprised somebody else has done it. Like, I don't know, this maybe the original Fortress Craft, maybe it predates Factorio. I don't actually know. But if nothing else, it's suggests that yes, it's not unreasonable to do this design that kind of feels like it's really ripping off Factorio pretty badly, because here's somebody else doing it. So I'm not ripping this off because I independently designed the same thing. I mean, it's so obviously Factorio, but I guess maybe the cubes were moving smoothly. It's just the plates, the animating plates underneath them that were moving jerkily. No, they're stuttering. That's a pretty hideous. I mean, maybe it's because that maybe it's because of their capturing tech or something. Maybe it's not janky in the actual game. Anyway, okay, yeah, that's interesting. That's certainly a game that's exactly like what I'm aiming at. So whatever. I don't actually want to look into it too close and steal their ideas. I don't want to know what their ideas are. I'd rather not know. That way, when I come up with ideas, I don't have to worry about whether I was ripping them off subconsciously or not. Like, did I actually talk anywhere about finding ore? Because the chat was talking about how you find ore, and I didn't read the details of it because I don't want to know, because I just want to design something and not worry about it being a ripoff. If I read what they did, then I'll have to do something different. So, I mean, I don't mind looking at that video real quick, just to get some idea of what it is like. But it's interesting to see their picker, which is really slow picker. That's part of why I can get away without the animation being that solid in mine, because it's fast. And mine is still way slower than Factorio. That's actually another thing I want to look at. In fact, I wanted to do that. Where do I... That's logistics. It's a long tick, something like that. So what happens if I change long tick length? Like, does this actually work? Did I write all my code correctly? The problem will be that the picker animations become too fast and no longer as interesting potentially. But yeah, it looks like everything is animating faster. So can we then, keep cranking it up? Shouldn't have to be power 2. That was an interesting power 2 artifact there. So what may be reasonable to do is to speed up the conveyor belt, but not speed up the tick length. Although the conveyor belt is strictly keyed to the tick length currently. So we may need to do 2 iterations of ticks, or just make the machine start taking multiple ticks. Factorio actually has multiple belt speeds. You unlock, you research and build upgraded things, and maybe that's a good strategy too. The Let's Play I was watching said that you got 13 items per second moved through was your throughput. On the red belts. So long, what's that called? Length. So let's see, 60 frames per second divided by 5 is what, 12? So currently we're doing 12 ticks per second, and every tick is how long it takes for an item to advance. So this is probably pretty close to the red belt speed. In terms of items per second, the items are at a different scale and stuff. So, yes, the pickers look much cooler when they're slower, but and that will be one of the problems, is once you have fast belts, we'll need some kind of fast picker that looks good at this kind of animation speed. I mean, you can have a whole row of machines pulling, that's sort of the whole point of the assembly line thing, is that you need a lot of machines pulling the stuff off. So maybe you don't need faster pickers, you just need more machines. But then upgrading to fast conveyor belts and not and having to build lots of stuff, I don't know, maybe it's still cool. We'll see. And yeah, so let's settle on that, say, for now. We'll leave that as the thing to get used to, which is still faster than it used to be. And maybe we can have a belt upgrade. Figure out how to do that at a later date. So, all right. So I need to start being able to make things, and I guess, and so I can start take some inputs and generate an output, but maybe the temptation is to do it in the order of the crafting thing, like to start with ore that you drill. Like, does that make sense? Should I do that? Should I go ahead and say, you have to, I'll change the generator so it generates blocks like this or something, and then you have to put a drill on top of that, and to start with, it'll just generate infinite. And then once I have those, because currently they just spontaneously generate. They don't even need to be on the right type of thing. So I could add that, or I can just leave them spontaneously generating and start making things that take them as inputs. And the question is, well, so I won't bother animating them. They'll still just be blocks sitting on top of things. They're called drills, but they won't actually have animation or anything to start with. Or should I just go ahead and say, oh, I've got red and green ore, and you can start making things out of red and green ore? Of course, they're generating random, so it's hard to actually build a coherent system if I do that. Or I could, have them spontaneously generate specific other things, like, maybe a conveyor belt gets made out of some refined ore, so some kind of whatever the refinement is. So, do I want to add the steps of the furnaces and etc.? I will eventually, but the question is, like, what order should I do these things in? You don't program the machines, you place them. You're constructing a factory. You program them in terms of like laying out the conveyor belts to route the right things to the right other things. So it's programming it a little bit like the way designing a hardware circuit is programming, but not as much like writing software is programming. Go from the bottom and work your way up. That's what one person pitches. Yeah, second. That's two people said that, and that's certainly sort of my natural inclination, even though I don't think there's actually any good reason to do it that way. It's just sort of the obvious structure. So sure, I will do it that way. And first I need to get a glass. I'll be right back. All right. So good grief. All right, so we're going to start bottom up. So we're going to start by making a driller. So what do we got to do? I have to tweak the generator so it actually puts surface ore. You have to create an ore type. Have to figure out what texture to use for it. The drill would just use this existing machine texture. The whole thing I did with the existing crater and destroyer blocks here is that they had a specific side. That's why it's got the white circle. They have a specific side that the ore comes out of or gets swallowed up into. Like here, he brings it in, and I looking at like Factorio and I think that's probably the wrong thing to do. It's a lot nicer to just wire up inputs and outputs on any side wherever you want. And you could rotate the machine to make when it's only got one input or output, you could rotate the machine so that's the right side. But like once you're taking two inputs and have two outputs, say, you really just want those to be able to come from any side. You don't want it's too constrained to have them come from specific sides, I think. So the new texturing scheme will not have the dot on it showing where the things come out, and which means the animation won't make sense as much, where it currently seems to consume it into the thing. However, is that one even? Yeah, it is animating. You just can't really see it very well because it's so fast now that I made the ticks slower. Yeah, I can see it barely. Oh yeah, somebody was sad that the animation that I posted stopped before the things got to the end of the ramp so they could see them fall off the ramp. But of course, anyone who's on the stream knows they don't fall off the ends of ramps. They just stop because that's what Factorio does. And I was like, that's a lot more nice from a user interface standpoint. Oh, that was the main reason. It wasn't so much the gameplay, the sidedness thing. It wasn't exactly a gameplay thing. It's just like, I don't want to have to sit there and rotate the things. I guess you could auto rotate them based on which side the picker is, but yeah, I think you'll have to rotate the pickers. That's enough of a mess than having to deal with rotating the machines. Oh yeah, and so the person who was asking about the programming is because I didn't leave this on top. Well, maybe not. They might have still gotten confused, but and there's still this bug in the thing. There's how far is that propagating? Is that at the curve? Yeah, it's at the curve. Is this at a boundary of the? Nope. It's not at a boundary. So I don't know why there's that bug happening on this curve, but not on other. Oh wait, it's happening on that one too. Maybe it's propagating all the way. How far is this propagating from? Jesus. Oh, it's when this guy consumes the thing. It's causing these to color animate wrong. Weird. Anyway, I'll have to fix that at some point, but I want to do it now since we want to make forward progress and not work on conveyor belts. We spent so much time working on conveyor belts previously. So, all right, so we have to generate ore on the surface. Let's see, Mesh Builder. So we have generate trees for chunk. Let's just do a random thing here. How do I get random numbers in this system? I don't remember anymore. it's actually going to repeat. This is a wraparound noise. All Perlin noises actually wrap around, but I'm only going to do it in 2D. So to make it more unique, to reduce the wraparound, I throw this in as the third dimension. Okay, and so then this goes in here, where we decide what thing it should be, and then we say it's less than, I don't know what it needs to be less than. Let's try that just to see. Then block type equals BT. We actually set multiple, so that's interesting. Well, let's just use the marble, whatever that was. It does not seem to have worked. Pretty sure that returns -1 to 1. Oh, these are all already marble. That doesn't help. Oh, that's the grass texture? Okay. Oh, no, wait. That's stone. Okay. I don't know if BT marble actually exists. I mean, it exists. I just don't know if it's... Where do we do that? We moved that into voxel render. Maybe. No, not voxel render. Mesh builder. That's where we moved it. Yeah, okay. Set block type texture 16. Do we actually load texture 16? That's in main. A 16 is conveyor belt. $17 is marble. Wood 15 is that? Yep. Okay. Vertical redwood. Okay, and then back to mesh builder. Oh, the tree is using the marble. Why is the tree not using wood? What? It is using wood. Why is it using BT marble here? Do the trees have... Oh. No, all the trees are the same. I was thinking maybe they're different types of trees. Do we not use that parameter to add tree? Type. Tree location. Okay, when we've generated all the trees, then we add the wood trees. So it looks like that maybe the type was originally being used to help me debug it, because I gave them different types so I could see what they were, but I don't actually use them. Generate trees, then we go through the trees and we probably ignore that value. Yeah. So now this should have the trees on the border get a different, yeah, trees on the border get a different type. So this was a thing I did for debugging purposes. Okay. All right, that's all good to know. Now, for some reason, I used marble as the stone texture. So let's put the trees back to BT wood. Let's change this to gravel. Change that to stone. Okay. And then let's look at what the values this generates are. Okay, so one of the things is I didn't really want Perlinoids. I wanted I want discrete noise. So maybe this is like always 0 at the vertices of the grid. Oh, fuck you. It's all per side textures. There. Wait, no, that was... No, okay, they are there. Somehow I just didn't see them the other time, or they weren't doing... All right, so there you go. I have little bits of ore. Let's put the gravel up higher while we're in here. Okay, so... if you're interested about the syntax highlighting, check the FAQ on the left in Twitch, which I believe links to a video. Okay, so we're generating the ore. Just type BT marble. So now we can, when we place one, we can have it only function. So that's, what is it called? The maker. Let's change that to drill. Is that this? And I'm intentionally changing the existing one, which means that the stuff that I've built by hand will still be there, because it's going to be the same number rather than making a new thing. So now the ore maker, we want to handle the ore maker differently. Wait, what? Why is that the only? Why? Oh, because I need logistics. No. Wow, that's the only code for that. Okay, we only want to start drilling if we're actually on top of the right type. Since you can't change the type of a block, how do we want to do this? Do I want to check every time? The problem is I actually can't query that data. I don't store that data. We turn it into render mesh data and then discard it. So we have marble polygons, but we don't actually have the state. The physics system computes it. But that's a little region around the player. So we either need to cache. I think what wants to happen is that those blocks actually need a state, like how much material there is in them to drill. And that state needs to live in the logistics simulation. So probably the logistics simulation just wants to cache that. So probably when you place it, we want to do stuff. So somewhere in here is where we place them. Machine. Right, update block. Create machine. Do we always end up calling create machine? Yes. Okay, so what we want to do is we also need to get the logi chunk for the block underneath it. And that takes a logi slice, which we can pass in because it'll be the same slice. Because the slice is the whole vertical stack, if I remember correctly. Oh, we didn't cache the slice. Does the chunk keep a pointer to the slice? No. There is a function that just queried the slice, I assume. Get chunk. Oh, no, it's a return value from get chunk. Okay. That makes more sense. I don't actually need to know the slice, so we do that. Make sure that is allowed. Degree, where is it? Wow, I call that a lot. Yes. Make that explicit. I like to make my pointers explicit comparisons against null instead of treating them as booleans. Yeah, I plan on doing. I wasn't sure of the details of that in either of those games, but the plan was definitely that you have to do a little mining by hand to start because you will need to build. And assembling by start because you need to build the conveyor, your first drills and conveyor belts somehow. So you start with the Minecraft axe essentially. I think somebody actually proposed that in a previous stream, which I think I'm not going to do. But you start with the Minecraft axe and have to collect a little bit of starring ore and then hand crank a furnace. I don't know how that would work, but have to do that a little bit to get things started. And then eventually, you start building conveyor belts by hand, so that you can put the conveyor belts down and start routing things, and then start having it build conveyor belts for you. Like that's just part of the whole arc of that style of game. I mean, it's definitely in Factorio that you build conveyor belts and truck conveyor belts around on conveyor belts, which make no actual sense. Like the scale is just totally wrong and stuff. But I wasn't aware that was actually that they did also do that starting thing. But I think it's the obvious thing to do. All right. So what was I in the middle doing here? Create machine, right? So. So now we have to let's actually get chunk alloc. We want to force this chunk to exist. So I think type is the one that has the type info. So then you do doesn't that store the position in it? How do we do this elsewhere? Or is ox oy oz? Oh, ox oy oz is in the relative coordinates of the chunk. Right, so I don't need to pass in the slice. I think only the slice keeps the coordinates. Yeah, slice x, slice y. The chunk does not. So we do actually need to pass in base x, base y, base z. This is bx x, by plus y, base z plus oz. So then it's minus 1 and log g chunk size z. Oops. Yeah. Or ox. But these aren't BT types. These are their own type? Or are these BT types? Create machine, passes in type. Yeah, these do just all use block types. Okay. I think I'm going to have to introduce a new logistics type, but that was this whole, maybe I don't, maybe I was intentionally designing it. Like I need a type for things that live on conveyor belts. And I think that's not the same as block type. Although maybe it could be. Or is it an engine or a full-on game? It's unknown. We're making it up as we go and on that front. Whether it gets to full game, like this whole Factorio thing here is maybe going to turn it into more of a game, but we'll see. The open part of it definitely kind of implies that it is intended to be engine-y, that it's intended to be repurposed. But we're not at that point yet. And I don't know, maybe it'll never really get to the point where anyone else can go anywhere with it, or maybe that's 5 years out or something. And I don't know, I'll still be working on it in 5 years. Maybe it'll die. So who knows? But yeah, I wanted to get some game stuff in, and that's why I decided to go down this Factorio route, is to try to get an actual sort of game thing. However, as I've said, I'm not going to try to network the logistics system here. So, and there is a bunch of networking code, and I do want to finish the networking code. So that already kind of implies this is going to be more than one game. Like there will be some kind of game that will use the networking stuff, and then there will be this Factorio game. So, like maybe then for the network game, maybe I'll just make a first-person shooter or something. Yeah, the miniature thing, like, that's in Minecraft too. When you drop objects, they're all these little sprite objects. Like, like if you make a chest and drop the chest so somebody else can pick it up, it's this little sprite object, and then they pick it up and immediately place it, and it's this block-sized object. And they're all that way. And so I'm assuming, yeah, that you just do that, and people are used to it in Minecraft being that way. So, like, if the audience for this is more Minecraft audience than the Factorio audience, it'll still be fine because they'll still be used to seeing that, which makes no sense. And hopefully it's a game, so you don't worry about it. So the question was whether I actually set this at all. Update block core. Somebody who calls update block core. Oh, right. That's this weird. Wow, I don't even remember what that does. I should also optimize this. In fact, when do you ever need to update adjacent chunks? You have to mesh update them, but why do you have to logistics update them? What does the logistics update chunk do? Oh, it finds, yeah. Oh, you do need to update them all because, yeah, complicated to explain, and I won't bother. I probably explained it in a previous video. DLL modding API, yeah, I'm not going to worry about that. We're worried about source level mods at this point. If it were to come to that, I'm not sure. I think it would probably be more likely to be a Lua thing or just config files, because if the machines are just like, oh, you take this as input and that, you take these inputs and you generate that output, that could all just be done with some simple text file format that's not even fully programmable. And in fact, that's how I'll probably end up doing it myself. So probably you'll just be able to mod that stuff with config files. In terms of like being able to make new objects and stuff the way people do with all the Minecraft mods, I think that I would be unlikely to do. Because you certainly don't want, like, the whole way the conveyor belt system works is this super crazy internal thing. I could have some pluggable functionality where, once the machine has all of its inputs, I could call out to some external thing that doesn't need to know about the internal logistic things and just has some simple stuff, but I don't think it's worth it. And people can always just try to modify the source as long as this is open anyway. So, all right. So why was I looking at this update? Oh, right, because I was trying to figure out if logistics update block gets called with BT Marvel, whether that propagates down, and it does. So then the question is, who calls logistics update block? It's just a question of, do we always call it for everything? Yes, we do. Okay, so if a block gets changed by the user, we definitely call it. Okay, so the problem is that the blocks that get generated we don't know about, but that's okay. We'll have to figure out how to deal with that. Maybe right now, I'm not sure. So then we're going to have to, in the logic chunk, we're going to have OR blocks. And probably this all these SUV arrays are really a bad idea for oh no, it actually has to be a structure. I forgot. That's unsigned char x y unsigned short. Wait, mutate. Unit 16. Or kept. It's going to be named something, so we don't need that. The source is already available. It's just, this is so unfinished that there's not much to do, but it is on GitHub. But yeah, it just doesn't really make any sense for anybody to try to mess with it yet. All right, so create machine. Okay, and then we hit, so yeah, we have find machine, and now we need find OR. Oh, I forgot to store. Oh, right. I already have this packed thing that I should use, which probably only takes 2 bytes. Yep, logi chunk chord. So see, or let me say or. So OX stands for offset, but now we need or. Okay. So it looks like we call these IDs typically. So if ID is less than 0, we need to add one. Or info or dot pause dot unpacked. I should have an constructor for these, or whatever you want to call it, an initializer. Maybe I do. Let's see. Logi chunk chord. Right? Oh, much nicer. Okay. And then or dot count equals, let's just do that for now. Actually, let's have it run out so we can see that that works. Much smarter. Okay. So now we need to add that. Or push the arrow ors or for. Should I pick ors? Is or the plural of or? I have 5 or. I have 5 ors. Yes, I think 5 is the plural. I think or is the plural of or. And if you have ors, that sounds to me like having different types. I have 3 ores: coal, iron, and copper, or whatever. Okay, so doom. So this is this all assumes that we do set that it's a PT marble. We just don't bother. We add the block type table that where it is, but we don't do that. Which means get chunk alloc kind of needs to seed that, which it doesn't do currently. It just creates an empty one. So we have to think, how do we get the generated ors? Oh, and currently, if we go too far away, we do discard it, and then we have to recreate it when we come back. What does this take? It takes the base address? Yeah. Do we have the base address? Alright, so if we let this run for a little bit, what's the hack? Is it M? I don't remember now. H? It's H. Try to get as much content on here as we can. So if we fly away and come back, I think the changes get preserved, so the blocks will still be there, but I think the logistics stuff would get cleared. So that's just what I'm testing. I don't remember the details of this, so that's a suspiciously straight line. All right, that's probably far enough. 2,500. So now the question is, will everything be gone? Will it still work? I have no idea. I'm just, rather than try to read the code, I'm just going to freaking test it and find out what the actual state of the game is. Some systems, oh shoot, I ran out of memory. I thought I was going back where I came, so I shouldn't run out of memory. I don't think I can ignore, yeah. All right, so much for that test. It has a 128 by 128 thing, and then the chunk is what, 16 or something, I think. Where is the chunk? Oh, here it is. It's 8. What? Oh, right. Let's go with this. So it's 128 by 8, 256. So it's about 2K, in fact. I would have to go 2K to do it. So let's shrink this down to 8. I don't have to go very far. Okay, now let's go a little bit away. .64 should be enough to make it go away. I can't quite tell. Did they just disappear, or did they? Nope, they're all still there. Okay, I don't understand what the system is doing. Oh, maybe I have to actually place a block. That might be true. It's not letting me place. There we go. It's not letting me place blocks, though. Oh, it's placing them. It's just not drawing them. So I have some other bug. Okay, and then did that remove any of these? Doesn't look like it. Okay, yeah, I don't understand any of this. Can I build the picker on top of a picker? Yeah. What? How did you... Something must be leaking memory. I guess it's time to investigate that. Because I bet something is leaking memory. Maybe the logistics of the system is leaking memory. Free slice. I don't think this is responsible for it, unless it was constantly creating and reloading them, but this is failing to free. Is that all of them? Machine or pickers? What's BR? Yeah, it's conveyor belts. Belts run. I should probably rename that to something more verbose now that I'm no longer constantly editing it. How many things is that going to be? A lot. Hope we didn't have anything else starting with it. Okay, good. I just wrote free chunk. What happened to it? Did I delete it? Oh, I did it down here. Etc. I won't do all those right now. So, yeah. So I think that's something I've got to come back to, is that whole slices getting unloaded and not getting reloaded, probably, I think, if I understand what this thing is doing. But we won't worry about it for now. So let's put this back. And instead, we will focus on what we're trying to do, which is we need to somehow initialize the chunk. This is just a messy order of operations problem. When we put down the thing, we need to generate the appropriate world chunk so we can check for ore. But that has to happen in the background. The chunk generation is always in the background. And we need to be a client of that, which we don't really have a facility for currently. So I'm trying to think if there's a good way I can hack this for now. Like I could just cache all ore that gets generated. But that doesn't really work if you move far away from the origin. What's a good way to deal with this? What could we do? Like, this is a problem I knew I was going to have to address in general, independent of the Factorio stuff. That the physics, that whole server physics thing, needing to keep a collision representation independent of the player. And it could all fold into that. Rather than trying to do something. So doing some kind of hack is probably the right thing for now. So we'll just do the hack. Which is going to Mesh Builder. And now this is running in a different thread, so we have to be a little careful. And so is this getting run? Yeah, we run this independently for every segment. This is actually getting run way too many times because we're generating it for every segment. Let's just generate it once. Right. So that shouldn't affect that. Okay, good. It's still generating. So then when we generate them, do we do this for every segment? Yes, we do this for every segment. So let's only check at segment 0 and BT equals BT stone. Logistics, record ore. X plus I, Y plus J. Oh, there's stone under the ground, I see, yeah. So if we dug down, we would actually find ore currently, even without me adding that. So there's going to be, that stone isn't going to be recorded here. Only the surface ore is going to be recorded here. So that is goes from the Z stone up to Z limit. Does that include Z limit? Does not include Z limit. Okay. Type is BT. External void logistics record or X, Y, Z1, Z2, int type. Dun, 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 dun. Sure. So this is just a totally independent hacky system. So we'll put that here. And we can have a fair amount of it, so I can't do it too hackily. So I kind of need a hash table. Also, the keyboard is exaggeratedly loud because the microphone is mounted to the table, so hitting the keys vibrates through the table a little bit. So they are loud, but they're louder on the stream than in real life, possibly, given the distance of the mic from the keyboard. How can I store this? I don't think the hash table in sp.h is usable. None of the predefined ones is usable. Pointer map. Is that pointer map? I don't think there's an int map. I think I only have strings and pointers. I could cast the int to a pointer and use pointer map, but that seems kind of a hack. But this whole thing is a hack, so well, let's go ahead and do that. Wait, what's idict? Has to be in 32. Well, let's just go ahead and do this. Wait, we'll define our own type. Hash table. I hate this. So make a UI dict. I don't know what any of these mean. I'm just gonna leave them as they are. Oh, but you need empty and delete values, but yeah, they don't have to be reserved, so we can just say 0 and 1. Wait, one of these must be the value. Define hash base, which we do want. Oh, there's the simplified one. Let's use this one. U32 dict. That's the type. Then what's n? It's the third parameter. That's no fields. That doesn't make any sense. Oh, it's fourth parameter. Oh, name. Why do I call it n? Why is this an NC? God, this whole system is so terrible. That's why I never use it. It's way too much of a hassle. What? Why is NC? But there's no NC in the... What is this NC bound to? There's no NC here. Does this even work? Do I use it anywhere? Oh, look, there is an explanation for it. But that isn't going to compile, because I don't... Oops. Let's see. It lets me use a different name for the copy function. It's clear the purpose. I must have changed that at some point, added that, and didn't fix the other thing, and nobody uses it. Okay, forget it. It's just not worth this. This is too much of a pain. Let's just do it inefficiently. I can't do it that inefficiently. A linear search here would be way too slow. Does that compile? It compiles. All right. So then we have an SV UI dict. Oh, except this is also coming from a thread, so I wanted to do something simpler so I wouldn't have to worry about the threading. Jesus. This is such a hassle. Wow, I didn't realize this was going to be such a pain. This is why not to start with the drill. Jesus. Well, I could just make the drill not require, but that's what the current thing is already. How could I do this? All right, well, we'll just have a lock. SDL Mutex is in Mesh Builder. What? It's never created? Oh, that might be why this worked. Quote unquote worked. It just never got created. Unless it's in a different file. Maybe I initialize all the meshes in a different file? That's what happens when you don't check the return values. So there are mutex in here. What was it called? The one that doesn't work? Request to mesh mutex. Logistics. Do we actually have the SDL stuff in this? I don't remember. That's part of the... No, it's not. Good. And then is it just that? I don't remember. Yep, okay. So then we need a struct. Or can't call it or info. We already have an or info or hack info. We don't need to store the x and y coordinate. So oh hi equals SBI UI dict get. What's it actually called? Oh, but because I copied idict, it's not actually going to be correct. It's to be null value. Right. It wants to map to a void star. Has a null value. Yep. Okay, good. I think that works. Anyway, so that was called... That was called get. Okay, good. If ohai is null, then or hack info. Oh no, actually, we just use oh hi. It's malloc size of oh hi. Oh hi. C1 equals C1 equals C2. Type equals type. UI dict add. Okay. Oh hi. And we're done. Okay. Yeah, we have to actually pass in UI dict. Okay, that worked. I mean, who knows if it works. Let's run it. Okay, and then when we just get chunk alloc and we create a new chunk, then we need to initialize the war. And let's do it like this. Is x equals slice x shift like chunk size x. Chunk size y. This should be y, and this should be x. Oh, and by the way, that the bug that I fixed at the beginning of this, the new revelation that I was never actually creating that mutex, is why I don't think error values are the right thing for that kind of case. My current belief about API design that I've been doing now for a while in Iggy, the product that I do, and I haven't done it in any of the STB libs, is that there are two kinds of errors. There are errors, and situationally, it's possible for things to change categories, but most of the time they don't. The two kinds of errors, there are the kinds of errors that the program can deal with and the kind of errors that only the programmer can deal with. If you need to change the code to deal with the error, it's a different kind of thing than if the code can look at the error and react. So, if you open a file and the file doesn't exist, that's an error a program can deal with. But if you try to lock a mutex and it fails because the mutex hasn't been allocated, that's not very likely. You're not going to make every time you lock a mutex, you don't check, oh, is the error result error? If it's the error result is error and the error type is the mutex hasn't been allocated, then go ahead and allocate the mutex. You could write your code that way, but nobody does. So let's face that up. And so the kinds that the program can deal with, you should return as an error code. And the kinds that the program can't deal with, that needs programmer input, you should produce an error message. It could even be fatal. You could just always be fatal. And so like in Iggy, there's an error callback. And the whole debug context in OpenGL has that same idea of an error callback that happens when you do the thing that creates the error. And I think I complained back when I originally wrote that try lock mutex that it didn't make any sense to have that error code, but I don't think I explained in that same level of detail. And so making the programmer error be a callback that you print a message and possibly exit, that's up to you how, as a programmer, what style you want to deal with that. But it's not an error message that's aimed at end users ever. And it just turns out that almost everything that I've ever looked at falls into those categories. Like, there are cases where it's not quite true. Like if you open a file and you hard coded the string for it because you're hacking something together, then obviously the only way you can deal with that being null is not in the program code. It will always be a thing that requires you to change the source code, but that's because you did this odd thing. It's not how that API is really meant to be used. That's a sort of a development process thing. In normal use, it's pretty clear cut that things either fail in ways that the code can react to or not. And if it's a way the code can't react to, then having that return an error code that you check just doesn't tend to be useful, because there's nothing that you can do other than report the error and abort or not abort. You can go down the exception path. You could try to, have, you might be able to write your code in a way that when this thing fails, you can abort and keep going and shut down that subsystem or something. But since it represents a program error, certainly if you're a solo developer like I am, it doesn't make any sense not to just immediately die. But the idea that you might be able to distinguish the type of the error and decide whether to recover or not just makes no sense at all. There's an SDL debug variable that you can enable, but who knows if it would have printed that case. It quite possibly would have printed that case. How do we find the source to this? It would be nice if this just linked to it. But of course it doesn't. It's called threads.h or thread.h. I think it was thread.h, yeah. Oh, shoot. I want you to browse it in the browser. Oh, that's so annoying. No, stop trying to download it. I don't like the date on that. Nope, okay, yeah. Where's the SDL source officially? Is it this? It's a custom interpreter. Iggy is a custom Flash ActionScript 3 interpreter. That's really the entire value of it and the renderer. I don't want to download it. I want to browse it. Do they not let me browse it online? Somebody has found it. FNA, XNA, SDL mirror. Brilliant. Okay, yeah. Set error, and it has an error string. So there probably is an actual thing to do this. It's just not ever actually useful to return the number, I don't think. Then probably core. Oh no, that's platform specific though. Where would the error handling be? Oh, here we go. SDL error. Set error. Whoa, they have their own little printf thing here or something. Log debug. Yes, welcome to bad bad documentation. Here's the browsable official repository. Oh, here it is. Oh, I closed the one I wanted. And I did want that one. Well, I want that one. No, I want that one. There's a set output function. I saw that now. The priority can be one of these, and they're not explained what they mean. I assume this is explained somewhere. I just don't know where. I guess this is one of those things where you have to go find the SDL1 documentation to understand it. Maybe it's not called that, though, in SDL1. I don't see anything log-like here. Okay, this is not a particularly useful thing. Yeah, somebody is saying to use log set all priority, log priority debug. I just don't know. I would like to find the actual documentation explaining this. I saw that command somewhere in some of the docs I was looking at. This is some other SDL. Yeah, I think this is perhaps over complicated and underdocumented. Like, what is the difference between all of these? Do they all have a corresponding function? Are these a stack? Like, verbose is greater than debug is greater than info is greater than... No, that can't be right. Oh, no. Yeah, that could be right. Critical. So then you pass that in when you log? Was there a separate log function for each one of those priorities? Log critical, log debug. Yeah, see, these are sorted alphabetically, so you can't easily see the correspondence. And presumably there's one that takes the priority explicitly. What log does... priority info. So is that redundant to that? Yes. Presumably there's one that you can pass in the priority. Maybe not, because that's never that useful. Oh, per category. Right. And there's this whole category thing. Yeah. Over-engineered and under-documented. I would definitely say that. Anyway, we should turn those on. The reason I spent all that time on that was because I should turn them on. And I just wanted to figure out for sure what turning them on exactly was going to do. And maybe I already did. Who knows? I did this all ages ago. No, it doesn't look like it did. So then priority. Where was the priority list? Here we go. So info is higher priority than debug. So let's do this. Right? All right. So now, if we go back to, well, this may not build. I don't remember what the current state where I had this with this hashing is. Right. I haven't done this yet. Okay. If I go back now to create mutex, and I don't create that mutex, and we run. Error, pass in all mutex. There we go. And then what I would assume happens is that their stuff probably isn't thread safe. So it might be stumping itself in the error log, or it could be that this actually hit the oh, now it actually decided to produce an error inside the mutex being null. Who knows? So yeah, that may have been. It may be that the debug output isn't thread safe, and that caused that to crash there. But I don't know for sure. I don't know which thing you're agreeing with. I assume it was some criticism of SGL, over engineering and undocumented, maybe. I mean, it's all fine. Like, I recognize the idea. It's this thing I've seen in other places. It's a perfectly sane thing. The hard-coded set of categories is a little odd, but sure. Like, it's just trying to... I mean, in some sense, it was all stuff they wanted for themselves, right? And they're just doing a service to humanity by releasing it. It was not like an API designed... I mean, SGL2 is supposed to be improved, but... and I'm using it. I don't want to criticize it too much. But... why do they not use sprintf? That is the question. They don't actually format the error. They just capture it. It's interesting. I guess this is a thing I did in Iggy also, which is if you have a given error suppressed, they don't want to call sprintf and actually do the formatting because the formatting can be expensive. But of course, if you have the error suppressed, you should just skip out here at this point. So who knows? Yeah. Anyway, all right. So hopefully That will help us catch things in the future. Things of that nature. So now that I do create it, we get no warnings. All right, yay. All right, so what was I in the middle of doing? All right, I'm just recording the ores that I see here. So I have to get them. I don't have a get function. Or hack info. And of course I'm going to be getting in lots of spots that don't have anything. So it's going to do lots of hash table lookups that get nothing. Oh, I have to lock. Oh, I did. I already did it. That's what we're in the middle of. Technically, this should be inside the mutex, so let's do that. Y plus J times 65536 plus X plus I. From UIDICT. Now, if it already exists, we do nothing. Oh, we don't do anything with it if it already exists. So this could actually, but right, yeah, we need to check that it exists. So that's fine. If low high does not equal null, then if so then we want to know if high 01 overlap. So if V1 to V2 overlaps BZ to BZ plus the thing. So how do you do one of those range checks? You take the left end is less than the right end. And the right end is greater than the left end. Then they overlap. Then what do we need to do? We need to set the block type for all of them. What order is this stored in? I think it's just normal order, right? Yeah. Osoi Ox. Okay. Hopefully that works. So then boom. So what we want to see is if we ever hit this. And we did not. Now, are any of these actually on? Why is my delete? So I have some problem where it's not updating. Block creation is not working. I was seeing this before, and I thought it was something else. So I broke block creation at some point. Oh, there goes one. I can update this chunk. Oh, garbage. Okay, generate chunk null again. So somebody is definitely leaking memory, so I better figure that out. So I have the leak checker, but it's not thread safe. What does it do? It builds a linked list, right? Oh, I have a mutex. Do I actually do it? Oh, I do. I guess it is thread safe. Oops, search for the wrong thing. Okay, I'm including it. Okay, so it will it'll leak if it's still allocated at the time I call it. So I need to free everything before I can call it. Is that what it's called? I need to do that before stb.h because stb.h is doing a lot of our memory allocation for us. Well, before the one that defines stb.h, which happens where? In main, maybe? Yeah. Okay, and we do, in fact, include it first. All right. Maybe I've run this before? I don't remember it. So then what's the dump mem? Nope, okay. I can just call it, right? Leak check, dump mem. So cb leak check enable, leak check dump mem. Wait, if it's not set to enable, yeah, okay, right. So I do need to ifdef on that, but it should be enabled. SDB leak check dump mem. SDB leak check dump mem. What am I missing? Added to main.c. It's in obbg data.h, which is included by obbg funcs. So it's in the wrong order. Oh, but OBG, so annoying. OBBG data depends on STB.h probably. Yep, because that defines my types for me. So that's all happening too early. What a pain. Yes, VC6 does have that stuff. I don't generally use it because I don't remember how it works. It's easier to just have a portable one that works on everything. Except when you run into this kind of thing. Leak check doesn't require STB.h though, right? So it should be possible to do this in the right order. I just have to do this before this, right? No, because... Wait, maybe... Right, you can't define those when it's declaring it. Yeah. So you can't ever do that before standard lib, which STB.h tries to include. So I can't override. So it looks like I can't profile malloc with this, or not malloc. Can't profile STB.h with this. So that's just not useful. So maybe I will have to figure out the VC6 thing. Oh, and now I've reordered things and broken everything. What did I reorder? I don't think it was this one, but we'll check that. Yep, it was that one. Okay. CRT dump memory leaks. I think the problem is that this is real slow too, or something. Yeah, all right. I don't like the output format either. It doesn't track file 9. Yeah, it doesn't track file 9, which makes it really not useful because you have no idea where this stuff got allocated from. Unless there's some extended thing to do that, which there could be. How did I learn to code so efficiently? I don't even know what you mean, but I've been programming for, it's in the fact, I don't even know now, 35 years, something like that. And I've been programming C since, I'm not sure when I learned C, but probably 88, so nearly 30 years, over 25 years. this state doesn't have any room in it for file 9. Yeah, they're just wrong. I mean, it's true. The file 9 isn't that useful. Okay, here. malloc debug, yeah. Source file, source line. But now I have to intercept all mallocs, and that's the same problem again. That I don't want to modify stb.h to explicitly do this. But maybe I have to. This is what's helpful pair programming here. Let's see if this works. I bet that has to be. I better check how that. I'm not including. Like, does that have to go before include standard lib or something like that? Probably. Come on. What? Why is this taking forever to open? Jesus. But who? What gets compiled? It's got to be the mallocs themselves, right? This is 2015. I don't know if it's true in 2006 anyway, but yeah, when debug is defined, the CRT maps all calls to malloc dbg, but that may not be true. Can we just open this? It should be passing in file line. But the CRT mem state definitely didn't have file line. I think this is true by default. Maybe not. Maybe I need to do it. But then when you kind of include standard I/O, it's going to break again. Or standard lib, I mean. Or malloc.h or whatever. Like, this doesn't do anything to prevent that. Unless the malloc.h is CRT DBG aware. So again, I have to go intrusively do this inside stb.h. I've been studying programming I've been programming for so long that I don't have advice for beginning programmers. I've lost track of what it's like to be a beginning programmer. Yeah, I mean, this is something that I'm trying to be more careful of in most stb libs, but stb.h, I did not worry about this kind of thing. Well, maybe I did, and I just don't even remember. Leak. Nope. I guess if I just include standard lib. All right, let's see if I can figure this out. Everybody's including it explicitly. That sucks. But okay, good. This includes std lib. So I'm include standard lib. So right after this, we say copy this thing from main. And then we just have to go into std.h and do the same thing. No, after. We're in main. Include malloc.h. Yeah, great. It's being included by something else. Oh, look, because this thing has its own. What is this one for? Oh, this is the replacement malloc. Yeah, that's not defined by default, so it's not that. It's something else, including malloc.h indirectly, probably. Leak check includes malloc.h. And def summon includes them. So we don't actually. Where's the. There. So this actually does the right thing and includes standard lib inside it. Yeah, we'll just leave it like that for now. All right, so I don't know. Oh, it's including it explicitly here. So yeah, I don't have any way of finding out which include. This is one of the limitations of VC6. It doesn't tell me which thing got included to trigger this. It's something in main.c, but it's indirect, possibly through multiple layers. So, but they should all be include guarded, right? It's already. OBBG funcs is including those things before defining it. Okay, it has include guides included. Yeah, I've done everything that I know to do for that. STBIH already does that internally now. And I did internal STBIH because STBIH is getting included in other places, and I didn't want to have to worry about them being in the right order. Oh, except I did this first. Oh, right, but that's just disabled at this point. It's not doing anything. Oh, maybe I just broke something somewhere. Yeah, I may have just broken something somewhere. Somebody's redefined calloc. Let's just check this to make sure. Yep, okay. Somebody has redefined calloc, even though I've now disabled this. And disabled this. So I must still have that defined somewhere. Oh, what? But that's not in the main path. Yeah, these aren't getting defined. I'm just trying to get this back to the state it was originally in. I remove those lines. I added those commented out lines. Oh, here we go. It's still in std.h. Wait, I know it's not that. Oops. There we go. 0 to debug. Okay. So, if I do that, it should compile fine. If I do that, let's just put it here. Okay. Now let's see if that gives the file line. Yes, it does. Okay. So now we're not trying to free any of this data currently. I haven't written any free functions for any of this stuff. So to actually use this, I'll have to check that. Or I can just check how much data there is. So let it run for a little bit. And then take a look. Oh, there's so many 4-byte blocks though. Ugh. Yeah, I need to suppress those. That's hiding too much of the data. And what is this? What is the data? Is that... It's trying to interpret the data as a string. Is that actually the contents of the string there? Did I actually malloc the strings in the texture names? Seems weird. Okay, so these are the OR block things, which are just a ton of them that we don't care about. So let's do a hack on that. Where is that currently? Logistics. Or it's ohigh. What was called? Ohigh equals next ohigh. So we got a lot of mesh builder things, which could be the ones in the caches. Which we can't free. And then we have these, which are mesh builder. 16K mesh builder. Those might be the physics things. 1603. Oh, those could be in the cache thing as well. All right, so let's write something to free up the caches. Now, do we take locks to get these? How does this deal with the fact that we have multiple things running? I don't see any locking. Zero lock for the cache. What are the locks? We have thread safe queues that use locks, but what do the caches do? Oh, I bet the caches are only manipulated by the manager thread. This should be documented. Check chunk sets. The manager comes along, checks the mesh chunk status. Who updates the mesh chunk status though? He does. Yeah. So I bet nobody else touches it. Release gen chunks. Yeah, it accesses the get chunk cache for coord. Yep, okay. So I think this is all only accessed from run thread currently. So we need to shut off that thread or something. Void free chunk caches. Void. Free mesh chunk. Right. Of course, that doesn't guarantee it gets freed if the ref count isn't 0 because the other threads are running. Oops. Is there a C there? Oh. Okay. So now we have to free that. Oops, not void. Static. Void stop manager. Pause. It seems to me it was some weird name. Okay, this doesn't kill off the worker threads though, so let's just wait 500 milliseconds for them to finish. This is all hacks. We gotta call stop manager. This is such like yak shaving-esque in terms of all the crap that I'm going through just to get the freaking ore placed in the world. So terrible. Did not clear the meshes. Either that didn't actually call the thing, or there's other ones that we didn't free. Or this isn't freeing something. Nope, it's freeing MC. Two of these blocks at 1074. Okay, and then how many of these? 186/2. 93 of them. That doesn't sound like a particularly magic number. I don't know. This goes back to this whole mesh chunk system Are those the ones that are ref counted? No, the gen chunks are the one that are ref counted. The mesh chunks are not. Where do they get allocated? I know where. How I can find out where they get allocated? I can look right here. 766. That's gen chunks, not mesh chunks. Oh, but most of them are 766. I went to the... No, okay. All right, so it's the gen chunks that are leaking, which are the reference counted ones. Somebody's probably not decrementing the reference count. Okay, I didn't balance those correctly. Is there more than one place that mallocs them? Let's just look at all the mallocs. That's going to be faster. Edit chunk, gen chunk. Why didn't I have all these? Why didn't I have all these for all the mesh workers? Do I not have them currently running mesh workers? And debug, maybe it doesn't have mesh workers or something? I don't know. Or only has one. Mesh chunk, not a gen chunk. No, this is the only place that allocs junk chunks. So... how does this go negative? Oh, I did it in the wrong spot. There we go. All right. All right, so probably the cache is about 256. And while I'm running around causing it to generate, it can go up higher, but it should settle back down. Looks like it's slowly increasing. Yeah, it's not coming back down. Okay. So somebody's not releasing. So somebody's not calling free gen chunk. Okay, here we go. We got a build mesh request. Then the manager will have already provided us the chunks. We get in here, we use the chunks, and then we release them. Okay. We generate the terrain, we generate the chunk, and then we put it in finished gen, and we don't release it. So finished gen chunk. So when we pull it from the queue, where do we pull it from the queue? Then we put it in the cache and we release it. How does the physics make use of it? Oh, that's the mesh. It uses the mesh chunk path, I believe. I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't see how this is asymmetric. Unless it's like getting double incremented when it gets created. When we put it in the junk cache, we add a reference. When we first create it, we create a reference to it. And that corresponds to it being in finished gen. And when we add it to the mesh chunk request, we add a reference count. In the cache, in the queue, and in the mesh chunk request. And I saw it being released in those places. The cache we just added. The chunk generator is this thing right here. That's the one that we just looked at. And then the queue we also just looked at. Wherever the queue was. Look, we're back to the threading mess. Breach and chunk calls release, which decrements the reference count. What would it be? I'm either failing to add a reference count somewhere or I'm releasing too many. Or no, that was the old thing. Wait, this is, right, this is me failing to release a reference count or adding too many. So maybe it's the physics path, which I don't remember how the physics path works. It just adds a request, right? Update physics cache feedback. Here we go. Physics process mesh chunk. So we take the old one we call free mesh chunk physics, and then we copy this one, and we don't update the reference count because we're copying out the data. Right, we're copying out the data. So we don't have to worry about the reference count. So I don't get it. What would possibly do this? Who else makes a copy of the junk? Manual reference counting, one of the worst things ever. But there are worse things. Can I disable the physics just to make sure it's not that? I don't know if I can. Nobody ever looks at that. Am I doing anything with that? Maybe it's in another file. Oh, that's just used for the output. Okay. For the debugging to let me see which ones are being loaded currently. Do a request. All right, so if we just don't do any requests, we'll probably fall through the world or something, but to stop. It's higher than it was before. Okay, so it's not the physics system. So somebody else is failing to release. Who else keeps... Should just decrement the reference count, right? Yeah. Definitely still increasing. I guess I just gotta walk through every place that the chunk goes. So, except it's across multiple threads, so I can't just step in the debugger. Ugh. Or we create a chunk. Set its ref count to 0. And boom. Then we increment its ref count. Add it to the queue. Ref count is set 1. Get to put chunk in cache. Free an existing chunk. We add a reference count. And then we release. Back down to 1. So now we're in the cache with a count of 1. I don't know. I'm getting too sleepy. I'm going to have to tackle this tomorrow. I just don't even... my brain is not coming up with any strategies to try to find this. So, sadly, we're going to just have to bail here and come back to it. So, there you go. Welcome to a day of unproductive work. Anyway, thanks for watching, and see you next time.